and welcome to Introduction to Programming tutorial. I guess that's what you would call it. I'm going to be making a simple program in processing to show the basics of programming, I guess. Um, well, let's get started. So, first thing you probably want to do when you start up a new processing project is save it. And we're going to call this one Homestuck Friends. Because why not? You'll probably see you later. Hit save, and now we're ready to get going. Oop, I left Skype online. No, 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 no. Alright, so most processing project has three main parts. Um, there's the area above the setup method itself, and then the draw method. So let's just put these two together. The setup method, the stuff above, and the setup method runs first, and it runs once at the very beginning of the program. The draw method will run once every frame. So by default it's 60 frames a second. So draw method will be ran 60 times each second. The reason the void is there is because it's a method. Later in the tutorial I'll make some of my own methods, but we're just going to be using these normal ones. So before we can get a window up and, well, if we tried running this right now, it should be a minimum size blank window. Yep, there we go. Nice and tiny and nothing going on for it. Well, let's start by customizing its size. So that's simple by putting size in the setup method. Let's make it 800 by 600. Size can take three arguments: width, the width of the window, the height of the window, and whether or not it uses OpenGL or not. If it doesn't, just leave OpenGL out, but it's pretty much it's a good idea to use it. It'll make it run faster, make it use the graphics card. So now we have a larger gray blank window. This is still rather boring. Let's start by adding some shapes. So let's go down to the draw method, give us some space, and let's start by using the background method. And we need to give it a color, and color will be in the same format GIMP uses. So any red, green, blue value between 0 and 255. So let's pick a light green. Yeah, let's do that color. So 219, 236, 186. Alright, hit run, and now we should have a green window. Very exciting. Well, how do we add shapes? It's really quite simple. You can just type rect, which stands for rectangle. Let's put it at, the first two numbers are the X and Y position relative to, well, let's just, so there's our rectangle. The first two numbers are the X and Y position relative to the top left corner of the screen. And the second two numbers are the size, the width, and the height. So if we set this to like 500, now it's over there. Also, something I'm going to do right now, if we put no stroke up in here in the setup method, it'll stop drawing little borders around it. Alright, we can also do an ellipse. that how it's? Yep, that's how it's spelled. You can tell if you did it right if it turns blue. If it doesn't turn blue, you messed up. So ellipse. Let's put it at 300, 300. Also make it 100, 150. And I'm using the Control R keyboard shortcut to run it. So now we got a white circle and a white rectangle. But white's rather boring. Let's give them some colors. So that's fill, and then 3 more numbers. I'm just gonna go ahead and guess. Let's do. Now we want to keep them under 255. All right. There we go. Looks like it's a purple color. And as you see, the fill applies to everything below it. So if we take this fill and put it down here, now the circle's a different color. That's the basics on shapes, but overall this is rather boring. It'd be fun to have some sort of movement. So let's get started on movement. First, we're gonna just clear those out. Let's make this just black and reposition this at 0, 0, and we can keep this size. So, what we could do is we could make the rectangle move. So, let's change that 0 to an x, and let's make an integer named x, and it equals 0. This area above the setup method, the reason why we don't want to put it in the setup method is because then the draw method can't see it. Only the setup method can see what happens in the setup method. No stroke works because it like sets some sort of global setting, but if we put this in here, it won't work. If we put it in here, it'll get reset to 0 every frame, so it won't appear to do anything. If we put it at the top, the entire program can see it. This is called a global variable, and good programmers will tell you that this is a terrible idea, but for just starting out, global variables work just fine. So, rectangle equals x, but if we run this, it'll be boring. It'll just put the rectangle right there. So that's why with x equals x plus 1. Now when we run it, rectangle should drive slowly to the right. There we go. Quite exciting. This can also be rewritten as x plus equals 1. That's this. It pretty much says add 1 to x. Also, you could just do x plus plus, which means add 1 to x. So let's leave it at that. And let's do the same thing for y now. Y equals 0. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to make a... No, wait. Well, I'll remake that later. Let's just go one step at a time. Now it should move diagonally. Oh, but it doesn't, because we never set y as the variable for that. And for shits and giggles, let's make this x, and make it times 3. There we go. Now it turned bright green, and now it's moving down. So, yeah. Still rather boring. So, I'm going to actually make the font size, I'm going to down a little bit, because we're running out of space here. Alright. So, let's make it bounce. Bouncing would probably make it more interesting. So this is going to be our vector x. That's pretty much its speed along the x-axis. Let's set it to 4. Vector y, let's set it to 3. Now, we're going to make x equals x plus vector x, but we can short that as x plus equals vx, and y plus equals vy. This should just make it move diagonally now. Yep. Nothing all that exciting about that. It's lagging a little bit. Maybe the recording software is not optimized or something. I don't know. So here's where things get interesting. So we're going to make an if statement. An if statement only happens if a certain thing is true. Let's quickly set that to 0. Anyways, so if its x position is less than 0, that will mean if the rectangle is too far to the left, well, no, let's do it is less than, we could type 800. Yeah, because that's the size of the window. The vector x equals vector x times -1. That will make the vector x negative. Although we can also rewrite this as times equals -1. And let's hit go. I made a mistake. If it's greater than 800, now when it hits the edge, it should bounce back. There you go. It's going by the upper left corner of the rectangle, so it looks a little silly. Alright, but we also need to make sure it bounces off the other side. Well, first of all, x plus 100. That will make it so it bounces off the right side of the rectangle. So, one easy way we could do this is we could copy paste this if statement, but instead do if x is less than 0. And let's up this faster so it's more interesting. So now we have a rectangle that... Oh, my mistake. I accidentally typed a capital X. I have caps lock on. Capitalization matters in this. So it will recognize a capital X as different from a lowercase x. So now we have a rectangle bouncing nicely back and forth. Or a square, or whatever you want to call it. Now let's do the same for the y-axis. If y boop, boop, vy times equals -1, y is less than 0, vy times equals -1. And then let's set this back to a value, and hit go, and now our rectangle should bounce around all over the place. Seems to go a little far down. Not entirely sure why. And set this to minus. Oh, no. It's because the window height is 600. Actually, if we just type height and width, it will automatically make it the window width and height. And we'll use those terms a lot when we're dealing with images, which I'll get to in a little bit. So now we have a square that bounces back and forth nicely. Well, this is the end of the first video, and then I'll pick right up on the second one, mainly because I don't want to find out that I messed up the recording too badly after I've done a large amount of stuff. You